And welcome once again to another fantastic episode of Minecraft City Building. My name is Dr. Wasabi, and going from downtown in our last episode, we are going into Midtown. Yes, that is right. So, for those who are wondering, the theme of this episode has been kind of brewing for me for a very long time, and that is, of course, the gym. So, for those who don't know, I have been finally going to the gym after a few years of convincing myself. You know how you always have that New Year's resolution, and you think, oh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, and then you never do it. I'm pretty sure that's like 90% of people, and that's okay. You know, everyone does it. But I thought I would change convention and, you know, kind of get myself into it. And lo and behold, I've actually gotten myself into gym, and it's kind of inspired me to make this video because, well, we're making a gym. You see, I absolutely adore when I do outside things in my life, and it gives me such inspiration for the world. It's something that really kind of spurs my creativity a lot. When I kind of go to new places, you know, whether that be video games or just places in real life, it just helps fuel my creativity into making new builds for you all to enjoy. So, enough about me blabbering on, let's get into the video. So the plot is over here. It is a bit far away from our last build, which is of course the Sunshine Apartments. Now, of course, this is a bit more of a traditional style district. It's right next to the shopping center where you've got these old brick buildings and this kind of lovely court or fountain area where shoppers can sit down and, you know, have a bit of rest from walking miles and miles around the city. But it's in this district where we really see a flow of different styles kind of mashed together, because of course if we go over to this part of the city where I'm pointing, that'll be the high-tech district with loads of Fallout inspired skyscrapers and all of that jazz. But as we kind of go deeper into the city and the older parts of said locations, we kind of see a mix between high-tech styles, Art Deco, and of course the traditional styles of the 20th century. So I think from that we're going to do a mix of high-tech and traditional, maybe like a brick base at the bottom, but it's been retrofitted so the second floor is completely high-tech, maybe with a large open span window. Because one thing I've noticed about gyms, at least the ones I've gone to, there's always a big viewing area while, let's say, you're on a treadmill or something like that, where you can just watch the passers-by go by, or what have you. Just something to kind of look at while you're on the treadmill or doing some weights or what have you. So going into the general color palette, I need to be very conscious of the buildings that are around me. I don't want to saturate with too many of the same block. And what I mean by that is, what if I tell you that all these buildings are going to be the same amount of blue? Now, it may not seem any different to you, but for me, that'll be very boring. A lot of builds of the same color really kind of drain the energy of the city, because when you think about it, a city is a big layer upon layers of different architectural styles and colors, and it just makes it a lot more bright and, well, lived in, so to speak. So going around, there's a lot of reds, a lot of bricks, a lot of blues. So I think for the high-tech colors, we're going to do something a bit different. Something that's not on the bluish to red style spectrum as we may normally see. So I think I'm gonna go test out some color variations and I'll be right back with you. Okay, we are back. Now after a bit of toggling with different color variations, kind of contrasting against the overall build or buildings neighboring this structure, I have decided on the following blocks. So for the second floor, or the high-tech floor as I'm going to call it, we're going to go for a mix between purple terracotta, magenta terracotta, and maybe white terracotta. I say maybe because I always think in these kind of things, white terracotta looks a bit too fleshy, but again, we'll get to that when we actually build the thing. Maybe it won't look so bad. Again, a lot of building is just second guessing yourself until you actually build it, and you might think, hey, that's kind of nice. So again, we'll see on that block. As for the magenta and purple terracotta, I think it'll be a really nice contrast against this dark, kind of foreboding Art Deco structure, which ironically is the army base. A lot of people may not have seen this before. I may have shown this in a few live streams, but for essence, this is essentially the army recruitment building in a lovely architectural Art Deco style, and you've got some lovely seating arrangements over here for the shoppers to enjoy. As they kind of walk along the shopping center and all these nice little buildings. But again, I raised my point. I think this is a great contrast against the black. I was going to go orange, but I think that was a bit too much of a clash with the other buildings because I want it to be somewhat washed down rather than very vibrant. Again, we'll have stuff like that for the cinema and kind of buildings that really want to show themselves off in a lovely facade. But for this, I think we'll do a nice little pastel wash when it comes to the magenta and purple terracotta. Going from the second floor, we go to the more traditional foundations, which I really want this to be the story of this building. So maybe it was something different before, very traditional, but you know, someone bought it out, they converted the second floor into a gym, leaving the foundation as like a reception area for people to just sit down and, you know, talk about, you know, gym stuff or what have you. So the main blocks I want to do for the first floor are between a collection of brick blocks and blocks of raw copper for the more traditional kind of brick structure. And of course, if I want to go for more like a marble block variant, I could go between quartz and of course calcite. Again, like I said with the white terracotta, it's kind of a build it and see what happens kind of drive. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set out the first floor, maybe plan out what the second floor may look like, and I'll get right back to you. So I think it is time we get into a lovely time lapse, but before I do anything at all, folks, you know what I gotta say. If you do like what I do, please like this video and subscribe. So I think with that out of the way, let's get in to our time lapse.
I can't lie. I really
Okay, we are back from that amazing time lapse. Now let's see what we have built here. So over here we have these amazing kind of beautiful archaic columns, always implying the kind of more traditional roots of this building. But of course we have these wonderful modern, well I say modern, mid-century style window designs. Kind of transforming into a high-tech kind of rim at the top, but of course we haven't gotten that far up, so that'll kind of be put in later. One thing to note is the use of the light blue stained glass, which is a particular favorite of mine. I was not imagining of actually doing this, but I think it kind of stands out compared to the other glasses that I put into this part of the city. So you can see here grey, grey, and regular. Of course, I do need to point out the yellow stained glass for the kind of not glittery, glittering lights of the cinema, but that's more for a lighting effect rather than windows themselves, so we'll just ignore that. So going on to the interior, my main plans for this build are around like a small reception area and maybe a elevator over here. The idea is that for a lot of gyms there isn't quite a lot of things going on at the reception area. There's a few seats, obviously where to check in, but apart from that the main gym is usually on a second floor or different part of the building. So we're going to have a little reception area with an elevator and some staircases leading into the main gym floor. But before we do that, we need to do some texturing. So for example, I've already started on these kind of columns because they are very big, and as a builder, you don't want to leave large unchecked spaces of the same texture. One example will be having something like this massive brick wall without any texturing at all, because it looks a bit boring and it kind of makes your world a bit dull. But it's easily fixable. You just need to get some similar arranged blocks. Like so, and just give it a good texturing, and honestly the difference before and after really is quite good. There's loads of stuff you can do with these kind of texturing effects, just to brighten up your city or town or what have you. It can even make the biggest of walls, no detail, no depth, it can really make them into something really beautiful. So for a quick example, we have this wonderful pillar as the before, and now that we're going to add some texture to it, we can see a big difference in terms of the general likability of this pillar. We've got some end stone, some quartz bricks, not end stone. we got some quartz bricks, we got some white wool, and it just really kind of helps increase the detail of the build, even by not even putting any depth to it, which is quite smart as your builder, as your kind of tools as a builder improves. This is one of the many things that always helps out when you're doing this kind of thing. Okay, so the next step that I need to do in general is I need to make some kind of high-tech lip that kind of connects these two together. So using the light grey concrete, I'm going to make a separate contrast with either grey or... No, I'm going to pick cyan terracotta because that's a bit more of an easy contrast compared to the grey. So I'm just going to make this lip all the way around, like so. Just wrapping it around the columns. Now the idea of this is to just have it stick out by one block, just so we can help the transition between high-tech and traditional. Okay, so now that the lip is finally done, we can start using the purple and magenta terracotta to start kind of planning out a shape for our build here. So the main idea is we're going to go out one more. Now this may seem a bit weird to some, but the idea I'm trying to go for here is meeting up this pillar here. And I'm saying here way too much. So the idea is to make a large viewing area, like I mentioned before. But make it in the high-tech style, which is always about organic curves and really kind of expressing optimism through architecture, which sometimes is a bit tricky because when you think of modern buildings, you think of very emotionless, cold things. But when it comes to high-tech architecture, this is what I love about Fallout 4. It really encapsulates that space-age thinking when it comes to architecture and, of course, the Googie style of the time. So there I think that's about tall enough. So that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that is great. So we have our viewing window. So that's going to go all the way across to the second floor. Well, on this side of the second floor, and then we'll have some lovely bricks over here with maybe some ventilation. The one thing about gyms is that there is a lot of air conditioning. So we'll probably have some machinery at the back there. I really want to think this one out. Sometimes you just put in loads of doodads on the side of the wall to make it look good, but I think there will be actually a purpose to a lot of this machinery in terms of the lore of this building. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to stretch this over to the other side, do some details to the interior so we can actually work on the high-tech floor itself, add in some brick walls, just kind of finish off the exterior of the top floor, and I'll get right back to you. And we are back with quite a few improvements, yes indeed. So let me show you what's been happening so far. So I've added some decorations to the outside of the building, some lovely kind of planters, nothing too fancy, but just something to liven it up, so to speak. The other thing is we have completely extended this high-tech feature to the other side of the building with some awesome high-tech or kind of retro support struts kind of emerging from the structure itself and wrapping around the high-tech structure on the left and the right, depending on your perspective of the building. So there we go. We also have the ventilation tubes, which is responsible for all the air conditioning in the building itself, because this is going to be a big room to air condition, so they have to have quite a big machine. I imagine even in like Fallout is going to be a big kind of clunky retro computeristic, you know, you get what I mean. So going from there, we have, of course, some minor changes. One of them being I filled in this part of the window with some brick. Now that may become more apparent as to why when we go into the interior. So, of course, nothing is final as of this interior. I will be doing final touches as we kind of finish the entire building off. But you can kind of get the general idea of this building. The general color palette really works well in my opinion. The magenta of the high-tech really works in an interior sense, with the elevator shaft, of course, we have over here. And a new block into the building, of course, we have some smooth sandstone for the downstairs and upstairs wallpapers. So we've got some seating over here, a lovely reception area in the middle. We'll have some planters as well, some bushes and things like that. One of the first details I've actually put in is a small little drinks or coffee area, because when you go to a gym, at least in my experiences, there's kind of like a counter where you can buy some drinks, energy drinks, coffee, that kind of thing. Just so you can kind of juice up, no pun intended, and of course go to the gym. So going from there, we have this wonderful kind of walk-up staircase, as well as the elevator itself, because a lot of people who go to gym, they usually have some kind of sports-related injury one time or another, so they may not be able to walk properly sometimes when they go into the gym, so that's what the elevator's for, of course. So going up, we have this really big open space for well, the gym floor. So there's quite a few things I want to do in here. A lot of these builds are going to be quite technical, things like that. So treadmills, weightlifting. We won't go too technical because, of course, this is not a big gym in terms of scale. I could do another gym in the world, but it just depends on how much room you have in the city. But in terms of space, this is a pretty sizable room, so I'll fit in what I can within the best of my ability. You don't want to just like stuff everything inside, because realistically, where you're going to go if like every bit of the gym is crowded with machinery? Because the one thing you got to really take into account is when it is a gym, each machine is spaced apart, so you don't accidentally hit anyone when you're lifting weights or something like that. So I do have to take that into account. So what I'm going to do now that we've actually got the interior design pretty much gotten down in terms of aesthetic. Obviously, this isn't the final kind of product, but we pretty much have the idea of what we're trying to do. I'm going to try and do this this kind of interior for the second floor in a lovely final time lapse for you folks, and then we'll kind of finish off this build and call it an episode. So I think without further ado, it's time to get in to our time lapse. And we are back from that amazing time lapse. Honestly, folks, I can't wait to show you what I've done here. I always love it when I get a bout of creativity from outside Minecraft. It's just one of those things. It just helps, you know, fuel your brain and make up new ideas. And I'm really glad how this came out. So obviously we've got the block list over here for reference. Overall, I haven't actually used the blocks of raw copper, so let me just put them in there. All good, all good. Yeah, let me put this in here as well. There's a little polish like that. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so let's have a look at what we've done. So going through the doors, obviously I said I'd put a bit more detail into this, and so I have, adding some bushes, a sneaky little glow pop machine in the corner. You know, even though it's a gym, they can't help but get paid by Glowco or glow pop, sorry, to put a machine in their gym. Oh dear. So of course we've got some nice little bushes, some paintings, some kind of nature features, of course. But the main feature, of course, is in the gym itself. So you walk up here. The first thing you notice is this kind of ventilation kind of snaking throughout the main room. And that's very kind of intentional because, as I've said before, this is a very big building. It needs a lot of ventilation for the gym so people don't get hot and sweaty and all that stuff. So we have a long line of treadmills. Now, I had various variations about being too illiterate of how these were going to work. Eventually, I settled on the comparators. I did use a lectern, but it looks a bit too antique for a kind of, you know, a piece of modern, well, modern for Fallout, piece of heavy machinery. So I kind of switched it out for the comparators, and I'm glad I did because it kind of represents that Fallout, you know, buttons and knobs, kind of clunky machinery vibe that they always have to do. So of course, going from there, we have the weightlifters over here. Now the weights themselves are made out of grindstones, chains, and of course anvils to kind of hold them in place when people aren't there. And over here is kind of like a pile of weights that people can pick up, the different sizes and what have you. Now over here are general kind of different pulling and pushing machines. The thing about the gym is that they have a machine for every part or muscle of your body, which is really interesting. Now I had to kind of sacrifice what was going to be in here because of the size, but overall I think I've got a pretty decent spread. You've got yourself some leg movements, you got yourself some pull movements on the back, and of course some push movements in the chest, which is the kind of schedule you go for in the gym, you know, pull, push, legs, in that order. So we've got all these kind of machines over here, and a very kind of placid, is that the right word to use? well, matted floor. Yeah, that's the word, matted floor, just so people don't kind of ruffle it up. Because of course there's loads of trainers and stuff like that going around, kind of sneaker shoes, that kind of thing. So yeah, and of course, last but not least, we have a lovely little water fountain in case the athletes or people going to the gym get a bit thirsty, which I'm sure they will. But it is quite, especially when you're going for a longer gym session, it can be quite tiring, and you can get dehydrated pretty quickly. Of course, for those with a keen eye, they may notice that these pipes or ventilation tubes are going straight into this stack which I built earlier, and all this goes up into the roof. Now, off camera, I think I may put in a few turbines, things like that, but for now I'm going to keep it very simple, just so I can experiment with it later, because oftentimes roofing is a very boring job, and I don't want to expose you to that. So I dare say that is the end of our episode 50, if I'm not mistaken, of Minecraft city building. Honestly, I'm so glad that you could come around to see my video. It is greatly appreciated. And of course, if you do like what I do, please like this video and subscribe. It is greatly appreciated to me. And I'm very appreciative that you came along to watch my video. So thank you for that. Honestly, I'm so glad I kind of do these kind of things, because if not, then this world will be very bland. Just going out and getting general creative experiences to inspire and make me do different things in the world itself. But enough about me blabbering on. I wish you a most pleasant good evening, and of course thank you for watching this episode. My name has been Dr. Wasabi. I wish you a most pleasant good evening, and of course, as always, God bless. And now, folks, it is time to say good night. We sincerely appreciate your viewing and hope we've succeeded in providing you with an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Stay happy and come back again soon. Good night.